This is our Changing State Vote 2024. I'm Matthew Peddie, the host of Florida Matters and the host of this podcast. The primary election is coming up on August 20th, and this episode you will hear about races to watch as you get ready to head to the ballot box and how to vote. Early voting starts August 5th in Hillsborough County. Well, Steve Newborn covers politics for WUSF. Hey, Steve.
Glad to be here, Matthew.
So the presidential election is in November, of course, and that's what a lot of voters will be focused on, but there are a bunch of down-ballot races. So what's on the ballot for the Tampa Bay area that you're paying attention to?
Well, it's just about everything right now. We have a bunch of congressional races going right down the list, school board elections, judicial races, big race for state attorney in Hillsborough County. And, just about every race that matters is going to be on the ballot this year, short of the presidential candidate. They don't get a lot of attention, but, as the election gets a little closer, we'll probably start hearing a little bit more about them.
Now, some races effectively get decided in August, right? So this may be the only chance that voters have to get a say in it. So can you explain what's happening with school board races?
Yeah, so with school board races, this actually might be the last time that everybody gets a chance to vote in the primaries, which will be August 20th, like you just said. There's a constitutional amendment on the ballot in November. It's Amendment 1, first off the bat, that will make the school board races partisan. Right now they're nonpartisan, meaning everybody could vote in the primary. What this would do, if it passes in November, what this would do is make it so only Republicans can vote for the Republican candidate, only Democrats can vote for the Democratic candidate. If you're no party affiliation or independent, you'd basically be out of luck during the primaries.
Mm-hmm. But this election, at least, voters still get their chance to have a say.
They'll get their chance to have a say, and in November, they'll get their chance to have a say whether they want it to be partisan or not also.
Now, judicial races are also nonpartisan, but judges can't campaign like others, so how do we learn about them?
Well, you basically research them like you do any other candidate, right? All candidates, including judges, have websites. They have what it's about, my background here, along with the cute picture of them and their kids and the wife, right? And they usually have a listing of some of the major issues that they've dealt with in the past. You can also just do some research on your own, do a web search on some of the cases that these judges have ruled on in the past and see if you like what they ruled.
Now, I might not see all the state-level races on the August ballot, but how can I know what I will see and how can I learn about those races?
Right, so every supervisor of election in each county has a website. So you just go to the website for each county. They'll have a list of all the races, including the local races in that county. And you could even drill down to your specific ballot. A lot of the supervisors of elections you can drill down to you put on your address on there. It'll drill down specifically to what will be on your ballot.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk a little bit more about ways to vote. You can vote on election day at a specific precinct. You can vote early at designated locations in your county. You can also vote by mail. Now, Steve, election supervisors, as you say, have all the details on their local sites. Just search for Florida election supervisor and the name of the county you're living in. Voting by mail, though, is a bit more complicated. Requests for vote by mail ballots are down compared to 2 years ago. Now, the Tampa Bay Times reported that in Pinellas County, in June, 42,000 mail ballots had been requested, and that's compared to 124,000 in 2022. So could you just remind us why that might be?
Well, there's a good reason for it. The state lawmakers passed a law recently that makes you have to re-register to vote by mail every 2 years. So if you did it last year during the local elections, you're good. Not probably too many people voted last year, I'd imagine. But if you voted in 2022 elections, you have to re-register to get that early mail ballot in. So you have to contact your supervisor of elections. The deadline for requesting a ballot is August 8th. It's coming up really quick. This is for the August 20th primary. Mm-hmm. So if you're used to just getting one in the mail and all of a sudden it doesn't come, that's the reason. So you probably should be a little proactive here.
Now, does a dip in requests for mail-in ballots correspond to maybe an increase in people voting in person on Election Day, do you think?
Maybe. I mean, probably. There's lots of ways to vote, like you said. Personally, I'm one of those old-fashioned people that likes to vote on Election Day. I like to actually go in there and see what the turnout is. Kind of gives you a little taste of the thrill of democracy, so to speak. Whether or not it means more people are going to show up on Election Day, it's a good question. I would probably think yes, because a lot of people are going to be surprised by not having that mail-in ballot mailed to them.
What else has changed since 2022, Steve?
So the number of places that you can drop off early voting ballots has also changed too. Some counties, I think Hillsborough has about 20 or 25, a lot of them out there. Most counties, though, only have a few. I believe Hernando County, for instance, is down to 3. So they've reduced the time that you can drop off these early ballots and reduce the number of places you can do it too. Polk County has only 3 also too, so you probably need to be aware of that beforehand.
Now, you mentioned this before, but one of the races you have been paying close attention to is the Hillsborough County State Attorney's race, but it's a bit complicated, right? Because in the Democratic primary, one of the candidates is also trying to get reinstated. So just give us the backstory on that.
Right. So Andrew Warren was the twice-elected state attorney for Hillsborough County. He went on record, he signed a pledge that he would not prosecute certain laws regarding transgender health care and abortion after they were passed by the legislature. That caught the ire of Governor DeSantis, who then suspended him. He then promoted Judge Susie Lopez to the position. So what we have here is Warren has filed a lawsuit in federal court. It's kind of meandering through the court system. He's been asked to be reinstated, and he recently asked to have that expedited before the primary. Probably we won't have a decision on that, and that means he will go up in the primary against he's got a competitor, Elizabeth Martinez Strauss, for the Democratic nod. Susie Lopez is running for the Republican nomination. She is not opposed during the primary, so we'll see her again in November.
I wonder if you could walk us through some of the other races you're going to be watching in August, Steve. Now, some folks are not going to be seen on the ballot. Congressional race 13, for example, Anna Paulina Luna unopposed in the Republican primary. So what else is happening there?
Right. So the Republicans have basically cleared the path for her. She has gotten the nomination or the endorsement from former President Trump. So the Republicans have cleared the path for her. She will, however, face several opponents in the Democratic primary, whoever wins that. One of the big names is Whitney Fox. She's a former communications specialist for the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority. She's raised the most money of any Democrat in this election. So we expect a tough election there. You got to remember this is a district that has been changed by state legislators recently. It used to include parts of St. Petersburg that traditionally vote Democratic. They cleaved that off right about where US 19 goes. The eastern part was given to Kathy Castor, the Democratic congresswoman from Hillsborough County, and it was moved a little north to more Republican-leaning districts. So this is more of a Republican district than it was in the past. However, it's still considered kind of a toss-up. And across the bay, speaking of Kathy Castor, she has no opposition for the Democratic nomination to get renominated. She's already served several terms. However, she'll be up against several Republicans, a Libertarian, and even a no-party affiliate candidate for that. So should be interesting come November.
Now, there's a couple of other districts you're looking at. Laurel Lee in District 15. What's notable about this race?
Well, Laurel Lee was nominated for her position as Secretary of State by Governor DeSantis. So when Governor DeSantis ran for president, she backed him. That caught the ire of former President Trump. Wasn't so happy about that. I think they've kind of mended ways since then. I think he is now on board with her candidacy. However, he did put out a call for MAGA-leaning Republicans to run against her in the Republican primary. So we're going to see a couple of people run against her, and whoever wins will face the unopposed Democratic candidate, who is currently a Hillsborough County Commissioner, Pat Kemp. That should be another race to watch.
And District 16, Vern Buchanan, who has been around for quite some time, versus Eddie Spear in the Republican primary. Now, that name may be familiar to folks who've been paying attention to what's going on in Sarasota, particularly as well. So give us the kind of backstory to that, too.
Right. Eddie Spear founded a Christian school in Bradenton. He's very well known in conservative Republican circles. He was nominated to be on the board of New College after Governor DeSantis kind of scrambled the whole board and redid it. However, he was the only nomination from that was rejected by the state Senate. He didn't get in there. So he will face Vern Buchanan, who's been in office for several terms now. Vern is kind of an old school Republican. He has more of an internationalist flair than maybe some of the MAGA types do. And I think this probably won't be much of a contest. Vern really has the name recognition, so I think he'll be probably handily get the nomination again.
Now, there are some races which have some pretty big consequences for folks living in the Tampa Bay region, but maybe don't get as much attention as they could. The Sarasota County Hospital Board would be one of those. What can you tell us about that?
Right. Whoever thought a hospital board race would be interesting, right? It's become a newsmaker. It's a result of COVID and the vaccine mandates that came down and the closing of schools, the closing of hospitals, and that sort of thing. So a lot of very right-wing Republicans are going for this board. They oppose vaccine mandates and maybe even privatizing Sarasota Memorial Hospital. So this is a race that people in Sarasota are starting to pay attention to, something that nobody really has, given 2 cents about in the past, really. It's become kind of a hot-button issue. So, the school board and the hospital board races, down-ballot races that not a lot of people pay attention to, are going to be a lot of people are going to be paying attention to it this year.
Now, where can people find out more about these races and the candidates who are running in them?
All right, just go to your supervisor of elections website. Each county has a very extensive website with a list of all the candidates in there. And, just click on the website of each of the candidates. They usually are quite open about what they stand for, what they plan to do when they're in office. Just do your research and be an informed voter.
And there's plenty of reporting on WUSF too, right? There's the WUSF.org/vote2024 guide coming out too. So that's going to be a handy tool for voters in this upcoming election.
Right. If you have any qualms about what you need to do, just click on the voter guide and hopefully it'll point you in the right direction.
We've been speaking with Steve Newborn. He covers politics for WUSF. Thanks you so much, Steve.
My pleasure, Matthew.
I'm Matthew Peddie, and this is Our Changing State Vote 2024. Our Changing State is a production of WUSF. Our executive producer is Gracyn Doctor. Scott Wachtler produces the podcast. Videos by Warren Buchholz and Chandler Balkcom, who also does our graphics. Engineering support from Blake Bass. Jackson Harpe composed our theme music. I'm Matthew Peddie. Thanks for listening.